Thank you for joining us with Thione NIANG. Thione NIANG, good evening, good morning.
Good morning.
So, how would you define yourself? I know you are on the several, jobs. You are a social entrepreneur. You are a political activist, a political strategist, a farmer.
Mm.
What best would describe you?
Well, I am a farmer and I am a social entrepreneur and I'm an author.
An author,
An
absolutely.
author, so that the social entrepreneur puts everything in there, and a farmer because of these recent projects I've taken on a couple of years ago to go back home and to start farming, and that's one of the most important projects that I'm working on right now in Senegal.
Where do you find the time to write? Do you are on your seventh book? I understand.
Yes. Well, you find time, you make time. You never find the time. But you make it. It's something that I've taken on for a long time now to tell stories, but also to share my ideas and my experiences and my mistakes, the things I've learned through the process. And I write so I can also share that with the younger generation, because for so long Africans, somebody's always telling our story, but
So
we have
storytelling is something big for you.
extra, it's very big for me because that's what made America. America is made of storytelling
Inspiring
and
others.
inspiring storytelling to be able to inspire a next generation of hope. That hope that is the bedrock of this nation cannot be ignored because that's what gave me my start here in the United States. I came here with nothing but hope.
It's a
But if you're
$20
willing,
only.
exactly with $20, but with a heart full of ideas and a lot of hope. So if in this country, if you're able to dream, no matter how big it is, but if you have the courage to work for it, everything is possible. And now, going back to Africa, these same methods I'm trying to use with these young people to create models, but show them that it's possible through hard work and using storytelling to show them examples of what's possible.
And I understand that the book that is supposed to come out soon is exactly about your experience about going back to your home country of Senegal.
Exactly. It's called Retour à mon pays natal, to go back home. The experiences that I've learned, the goods and the bads. There's a lot of things that happened since I came home, mistakes that I've made, but also lessons I've drawn through those mistakes. If I had to do it, what would I do better? And I've shared that because I'm doing this international tour with the diaspora for a program that I've launched this platform a few years ago. It's called Afro Global Connect, from Brazil to Colombia to the European countries, wherever the diaspora, even to the islands, to the Caribbean. I'm meeting the African diaspora there to connect the dots, to help, to try in my capacity to connect them, to share with them what's happening in the continent and to learn from them.
But it's not always easy for the diaspora to go back home, and you probably heard a lot of stories, a lot of mischiefs. What would you tell them? People who wants to go back after years of experience abroad in countries like the United States.
It's never easy going back. I'm living that as we speak. It's very challenging for me since I've been back home. But it's because it's hard that we should do it. It's because it's not easy that we shouldn't just let go. Because this country wasn't easy either. But they went through difficulties to create what this American dream is about. If all of us say, well, it's not going to be good when you go back, and we all leave it like that, and it's our homeland, it's always going to be the way it is. Somebody somewhere, or some community, some people somewhere in our generation will have to make the sacrifice to go back, and as our founding fathers did it. We are not the first one who did that. Actually, we were better off than they were, Senghors and Patrice Lumumba's and Houphouët-Boigny's and etc. When they left Europe after their studies, it was more challenging. There was no internet, there was no TikTok, there was no Facebook. Nelson Mandela didn't have TikTok. But they created a path. They didn't have no administration that everybody was black. They didn't have governments that was black. They don't have teachers that look like us. They had to recreate everything through independence after independence. Even secretaries that could type, they have to start from zero to create a nation that we have today. It's not perfect as every nation like we have. We're a young country. There's a lot can be done. There's a lot that needs to be done, where I'm aware. But there is hope that if people like us start organizing, get to create building blocks from the bottom up, from those villages to those towns, we can plant little seeds of hope. Soon there can be mountains of hope, as Dr. King said, out of a stone of despair, create that mountains of hope that I know will help change the continent sooner or later. It will happen during our lifetime or not, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is we have to start the work. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Now, I see you using the word hope a lot, which brings me to my next question. You are known to many in the world for your work during the campaign for Barack Obama, who will become later the first African-American president. How did that inspire you, and how did it have an impact on your life later on?
That campaign had a big impact on my life because it taught me, it reassured me, because before that campaign, I was already in politics in Cleveland. I was doing grassroots politics. But because of the no-sayers was so much, and what was at stake was so high, it reassured me that change is possible if you're willing to work for it. It showed me that you can dream and make it a reality. It showed me that everything is possible. And it showed me last that change really comes from the bottom up. And you cannot minimize few people calling for change from the bottom, because it takes few of them to rally hundreds and then thousands and millions. Next thing you know, the whole world gonna start singing the same song. And I know that, you know, from Dr. King's dream to the realization of President Obama being in office here, it gave me wings to fly around the world, to know that there's nothing I cannot do. Because everyone told us it was impossible in the beginning.
And today, do you think that the African diaspora is involved enough in American politics? They should do more?
It's just getting better, but we need to do way more. Because every community is represented here with us. If you go to Congress, it's very little of representation that we have. Most of the representation that we have is from the Black Caucus, which is great because of our diaspora as well. But for African immigrants who come in the United States, who became citizens, should also run in office, should get involved in their local offices, should be in the middle of power, because we are not represented when Africa is being talked about. It's been talked about. When I was in Washington, every time people talk about Africa, when I'm in that room, it's 2 or 3 Africans, but 100-something people will talk for us. And I don't see that happening in the other communities, like the Latino community or the Asian community or the Indian community, Americans that are here, because they know what's at stake, and they know the power the politics play here in Washington, how it affects their home countries. So representation matters. And until we are able also to be represented by us to protect the interests of our own community here and also back home, because when we get strong here, we can help home better. This is why I was very keen into getting involved in American politics when I was here. And it taught me a lot about grassroots organizing, which I'm using that same kind of strategy in the work I'm doing everywhere around the world, that organizing. Just keep organizing.
Right. And to talk about helping home, Africa, Senegal, where you're from, you've been known for big projects like Lighting Africa, bringing electricity to villages. Now you are involved in farming. Why is farming important for you?
Farming is life. Farming is the core of any society, because no matter what we do, we have to eat daily. And our people need to eat, but by what they create, by what they farm. Africa is a country that has the youngest generation in the world is in Africa. More than 200 million young Africans usually today are under 25 years old. And 70% of that population is under 25 years old. It's too young. And then you have the sun 365 days in the year. Mm-hmm. You have the most edible land is in the continent. We have water. We got everything we need. So we should have been giving food to the rest of the world. It makes to me no sense.
Yet that's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, to eat, we spend more than $30 billion a year importing food in our country. You see recently what happened, like when the Ukraine war happened, our president had to go to Russia, to ask for support for the president of Russia to open those borders so we can get the wheat back home, because African countries were suffering from that. Nobody was having bread. Et pourtant, we should be able to. Ukraine is 7-8 months of winter. We could be giving them wheat. So this is really affecting people, but it's policy and politics, right? And then to me, we have to go on the ground to the people and to change the story of what farming is. Because to them, farming is poverty. And now I went to farming to change that story, to change that story, to show young people that farming is actually attractive. It's a business. And it's life. We should be able to farm to feed our own people, but feed ourselves as well.
Right, because many people, when they go to school, they think a big career is basically a tie and a suit. And being in farming maybe can also be a success in life.
Yeah, but
right?
it's the politics that's been done like that for so long. Because for so long in leadership, farmers are always ignored, the last in the line. In America, we don't look at farmers like that. Why? It's because the politics of how government supports farmers is totally different than back home. But if they see people like us who are known by young people, who are followed by young people, who had the opportunity to stay in Washington, I could have stayed here. It's completely more comfortable for me. Less headache. Because going back home is very challenging for me because of everything that goes with it. But I made the choice to send a signal to young Africans that we too, if we are going to the village to farm for a purpose, you can do that too. And you can find money, you can create wealth through it, and you can create dignity. You know, the problem of our young people today is the lack of hope, which is pushing us now to lack of dignity.
And how has been the response so far? People embracing this farming school, people getting skills?
It definitely surprised me, the result. We are in the 43rd promotion class. And they come from all over, not only African countries, the Senegal, everywhere else in Africa, but the diaspora too. I am not in home right now, and there's a class going on, and they're all over the world. And I will be doing a call with them tonight to encourage them for coming, to push them to continue, because some of them not only come follow the courses, be trained, but we have alumni that went now open their own farming. Some of them are into transforming their own produce. Some of them are in the market now and helping to feed the continent. And sooner or later it's going to catch fire. I know that sooner or later, not only Africa will feed itself, but it will feed the world, because we got all it takes. You know, what was missing was transformation and leadership. Not to tell people go farm, but they got to see you farm too. Yeah, I could just be in a suit here and do a live video on Facebook every day and tell people we need to farm. That doesn't have much effect. But for them to see me in my boots and leaving the farm and farming with them, I know not only it inspires me, but it inspires them too to do the same or more. And sooner or later, it's going to be all around the continent. And it's coming already together.
Now, with all of this, does it want to make you get involved in politics?
Well, I consider what I'm doing is already politics. No, because politics is about service. Politics is about, you know, finding where the loopholes are in your country and what can you do to serve your country. And to me, what I'm doing is serving my country. Some call it social entrepreneurship, some call it whatever. To me, it's politics. And thus, I'm good at where I'm at right now, and I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's end this interview with the U.S. Africa Leadership Summit that's taking place next week here in Washington. How do you see the future of U.S. Africa relations based on your experience in both, here in the U.S. and Africa?
Well, I would say what I said to Secretary Blinken in August in the meeting we had with him was that after his visit to South Africa, with this new strategy the U.S. have now, thinking together for the future, and that speaks to me. That's what Africa needs today. We need partners on a win-win, respected partners in a win-win situation, not partners who will come and try to tell us what to do and how to do it. Bringing us their model of development that actually didn't work. Even if it worked, we have our own realities. And not only to choose for us who's going to be our partners, but I would even push it a little farther. I think this discussion should be a window for African governments, especially today, Senegalese president, who's the leader of my president, who's the leader of the African Union, to put on the table that Africa should have a seat at the G20. Instead of G20, we should have G21. Because this huge disparity in the world, why we want to talk about partnership, but then there is no balance in power, in discussions of finances. That's the core of why the world works, the economy. How come Africa, almost 2 billion people soon, are not in the table where decisions are going to be made in the G20? We are invited inside meetings. We don't need to be inside meetings. We need to be in the table so that 1.5 billion Africans will have a voice. This should be something extremely important in discussions that's happening in Washington next week. Secondly, the bilateral and trade conversations should be more not only in papers and in reports, but should be more real, where you don't only give loans to Africans and then bring your own consultants to make the money out of it. But how we can utilize the diaspora, African diaspora, but also Africans themselves to have the transfer of knowledge of Africans to be able to do it on their own. But that's not America to decide. That's on us, our leaders, to decide that. But it's a conversation we should open to have, and because Africa is in construction, it's a continent that everybody knows now. You have to go talk to them because the world's geopolitics is going to be played there. China is there, Russia is there. Now we have U.S.-Africa Summit with every country in the world. And we don't have enough of Africa Summit, serious Africa Summit, where we can tear down the walls of division and build the walls of opportunities, of shared future, a shared responsibility, a shared hope for the young people of Africa, where we tear these walls down of asking for a visa for Senegalese that's going to Congo or to Kenya. But then the American that's coming don't need a visa. This is some serious things we need to talk, the South-South partnerships, how we can create that in Africa before we open up to anybody in the world, which I understand that the world today is interconnected. America needs us as we need America. As America needs China, even though they don't agree on many things, they need each other. China needs America too. It's the same thing for all of it. We cannot put ourselves aside to look at the world like we don't want anybody. We're not nationalists. But economically, we got to make sure our nations benefit from any partner before anybody. This is what I support, and I hope that, and I know some of our presidents are into this mindset in looking forward to having these discussions with leaders and everybody that's coming in here in Washington, D.C. It's about what Africa can take out of the table. That's all to me was happening.
Thione Niang, if tomorrow you are the president of Senegal, what would you do first?
The first thing I would do is to make sure that I change and revolutionize the educational system of my country. Because to me, the way we're teaching our young people, they cannot compete with the rest of the world. Education is key. We are teaching them still how to go get a job. We teach them about philosophy, sociology, history, and etc., which is good. But today, Africa is being built without the Africans. We don't have enough engineers. We don't have enough scientists. We don't have enough people on technology. We don't have enough engineers in agriculture. And we need to move from literature to science and technology. And if I was the president today of Senegal, the first thing I will do is completely revolutionize the educational system of Africa. So not only in science and technology, but put in place schools that can teach young people in 6 months to a year, fast trade schools. We need a lot of plumber, we need a lot of electricians, we need a lot of people who would build, like les menuisiers and etc. Jobs that young Africans don't want to do because they don't see the value, but they're extremely important. Aujourd'hui, for me, for example, my village in Senegal, there's no electrician and there's no plumber, there's no mason qualified. And every day somebody's building a house. Every day somebody's building a school. There's roads being built. There's hospitals being built. Everything's being built in Africa, but somebody else is doing it. It's Morocco is doing it. It's India is doing it. China is doing it. And the young Africans still in the universities waiting to get a degree for a 7-year degree in history and sociology. So my first order of business is to make sure that Africa is building Africans by educating the young people, giving them the tools to lead the transformation of our continent.